What's up, guys? Ben here of Capwise. Joining me, special guest Jeff Nadeau, also known as the big man on campus. Kind of got his name in the sports betting space, I would say, from how sharp he's been with college basketball. So first and foremost, Jeff, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, Ben. Thank you for having me as always. I appreciate the kind words and looking forward to talking a little bit about college basketball here.
Yeah. So is this your favorite time of the year? One of
I
them,
would
at
say
least.
I would say so. I mean, I enjoy a lot of different sports, but I think the premier event in the calendar is the NCAA tournament. It's something that I think a lot of us took for granted. Then a couple of years ago we didn't have it, and we wondered what we would do with our lives. So yeah, it's a great time. Seems like everything's back to the normal. Knock on wood, but yeah, it's a great time, and it's really not always just the NCAA tournament. It's really everything. I've always done well with some of the smaller tournaments, and I'm actually looking forward to going. One of the regionals is here in Philadelphia, so yeah, it's an exciting time and a lot of basketball to what you whistle with.
Yeah. No, and that you make a really good point about smaller tournaments. There's the CBI, NIT. I've traditionally done really well in those. Sometimes you can find pretty good value because there's not as many people betting those as
Hmm.
some of these other games. So I think we could just start with let's see. Oh, I guess you're going to the regionals, right? Not the opening round.
Yeah, so I'll go to like the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16 Elite Eight. So no, I'm not going to the early rounds. I think for me, once you get past the first 2 days, first 4 days, it really cuts down on the amount of things you have to look at. But there's just so much going on. Thursday and Friday is always kind of a busy day, and then you got the games over the weekend. So once you get past the first 4 days, then you kind of whittle down the field a little bit, and unless it's in Philly, I think the closest to me is in like Pittsburgh. So. Yeah, I prefer to just. I actually have a pretty busy week. I have to go to Atlantic City over the next 2 days and do some content there, and then get back home and do some content here. So, yeah, I generally try to stay home and just kind of be focused on what I'm doing. I will say though, and I'm sure I don't know if you know this, but like going to casinos during the tournament's a great time if you ever get the chance. I remember when Jersey first legalized gambling. This was a couple of years ago. It's great to be at the casino on those days and. For me, though, I prefer to be at home.
Yeah, I've gone a few times to Vegas for March Madness. We're actually going again this year. It's a lot though. Like it's a whole thing. It's I know Atlantic City, just like Vegas this year, is going to be probably insane. Just
Yeah.
because last year it was still Vegas was like 50-50. How was Atlantic City last year? Were they?
I wasn't there last year. But it's funny because I mean, we have casinos everywhere now. Even in Philadelphia, we have a couple different casinos. I'll actually be down there tomorrow and Wednesday, so I'll get kind of the lay of the land. But I remember like what was it, 2018, I think, or 2019. It was cool. I mean, the day of
Mhm.
it kind of sucks because they're not as big, the casinos down there, as the ones in Vegas. The Super Bowl and some of the others are so big. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, so yeah, I haven't been there recently, but it seems like they get pretty good crowds. We can all bet from our mobiles now, so it's a little bit
I
easier.
know it's really changed the game a little bit too, especially in Colorado. Now I'm just like, I
Yeah.
never want to leave my couch.
Yeah, that's the thing about gambling. Like, you really don't need to go and go to a book anymore. It's cool to go if you're in the casino, or whatever, you make a play, but it's not imperative that you go to the casino anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to have it at your fingertips.
So let's talk some games. We'll just start with Thursday. I know we have some playing games. Unless there's something you really like in those, we could chat about it. But I want to first start with let's just go with a game. It doesn't have to be your best pick, but a game that intrigues you and maybe you have a play on, whether it's side or total. Because I think a lot of times in March Madness, we get caught up on sides, right? But there can be a lot of value with totals too as well. So feel free if it's total or
Yeah.
side. We can
I
start
think
with one game in particular.
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of zeroed in on a few. One of the ones that I kind of quickly kind of grabbed was a total, which I'm not a big total guy. I would say in my wagering, I'm probably 70-30 sides. I'll occasionally play it over or an under, but I kind of quickly zeroed in on a total involving Tennessee and Longwood. I think, the real thought about the Tennessee defense is it's always elite, whatever. And it is. I think they have a very good defense. I've always been a big fan of the way some of these teams defend. But remember, they lost Vez Pons last year. I think that made them instantly not as good defensively. Now, according to KenPom, they're still third in defensive efficiency. Now, that's obviously very good. They were fifth last year, but really this matchup, I think, is a rough one for them because when you look at Longwood, very 3-point dependent, have shooters everywhere, can really hit you from the perimeter. One thing that Tennessee does not do well is not only defend the three, they allow a lot of 3-point opportunities. This is a Longwood team that all season had success making shots. They were sixth in America in 3-point percentage. They regularly lit this conference up from a 3-point standpoint. They have one of the best shooters in the country, a couple of the best shooters in the country, quite honestly. And when I look at what they do, I think they can present a problem. Now, do I think they score 70, 80 points? Probably not. But with a 132 total, I look at this and say, I feel like they can get to 60, 65. And when I look at Tennessee, I really am concerned for Longwood's defense. This was a defense that regularly, whether we think it or not, they got blown up defensively a couple times this year to teams like USC Upstate and Winthrop. You look at stepping up in competition. Georgetown put up 91 on this team. Abilene Christian put up 74. Iowa put up 106. Against quality offenses, this team's just not good enough defensively. I think this ends up being a bit more higher scoring than this number's leading on. I'd probably bet it even higher. I'd bet it 137 if it was. It's 132. That's where I played it. I feel like this is a pretty good pace to it. It seems like an 80-65 type of game.
I think you make a great point there because I think this total, if you play the under, it's just you expecting that Longwood isn't going to be able to score. And if they're going to be able to put up points, this one could fly over because I do expect Tennessee to get theirs offensively. But Longwood, a team that can definitely put up points. Something interesting that I saw with Rick Barnes, I don't play trends too much to this nature, but it is a bigger sample size. Rick Barnes has had one of the worst ATS records in the tournament, and I think he's 1 for 12 ATS over his last 13, which is pretty crazy. Bigger sample size, but I mean, he's got to get ready. He's got to get his team ready. They're the more talented team, but there's every year, Jeff, there's going to be a big upset. Do you think Longwood is maybe equipped to do that? Or do you have another, let's say 14, 15, maybe even a 13 that's kind of catching your attention as a team that can upset and move to the next round?
Well, it's funny, Longwood, the Big South is a qualifier that happens very early for the most part. They were last played on March 6th. They've been off almost 2 weeks heading into this tournament. So they've had a lot of time to really prepare. But as we know, they're not going to have a ton of time to prepare for their opponent itself. They only found out on Sunday who they're going to play. Now, they could kind of whittle it down who the likelihood that they were going to play. But do I think they can upset? I don't know. I think one other thing I like about this total is Tennessee's pace over the last 3 years has gotten significantly faster. You go back to 2020, this was the team, as far as KenPom is concerned, they were 313th in adjusted tempo in America. Last year, 232. This year, 172. And on defense, they've really sped opponents up. So I think their pace has gotten a lot better. And I'll tell you what, the eye test sometimes is the biggest thing for gambling. Kennedy Chandler is one of the fastest players in the country. I think he'll blow by this team.
Yeah, coast to coast.
He's really good. And I just think the way they shoot this year has been really nice to see from them. As far as like a big upset, one that I got to tell you I'm really keying in on, I think Chattanooga has what it takes to beat Illinois. I really do. I look at that 7.5, 8 number. I think it's really kind of fruitful if you like Chattanooga. I think if you can get in the way of Coburn and you can really present a matchup problem on the block, they have become, if you watch their games, it is very much dependent in going through Coburn.
They have to get him the ball.
They're constantly trying to get the basketball into him. And I'll tell you this, okay? People will forget the name Silvio De Sousa, but coming out of high school, De Sousa was someone that went to Kansas. He was a 5-star recruit. This kid, he's not a great offensive player, okay? He kind of reminds you of like what Ben Wallace is. He is there to rebound. He is there to defend, and he's there to put a body on the opposite big. Now, if you go down to the South, the Southern Conference, do they have a lot of great bigs in that conference? Not really. But Jake Stevens at VMI is terrific. He had a couple kids at Furman that he played this year regularly. You look at some of the matchups they've had. Is anyone truly capable of shutting down Kofi Coburn? I'm not sure. But you look at the fact that all year, remember, A lot of people won't bring this up. They paid Lipscomb. Lipscomb has a terrific big, and Asana Sajala. Belmont has a good big, and Nick Muszynski. They played Murray. This team has went up and played higher end opponents or higher end bigs. They also have great guard play. I think defensively they really can have something for those guards. Underwood has become obsessed with playing Curbelo. It seems like a little bit of a problem, and I think this is a vulnerable spot for them. I really do. I think Chattanooga is going to present a major matchup problem.
Yeah, and I think a point to make, and of course we don't know if it's going to happen, but Coburn can get in foul trouble, right? And there could be stretches. Of course, he's not going to play the full 40 minutes, but there could be stretches where he's out, and Chattanooga can go on runs. That's interesting because I was looking at that, and I'm personally just not as high on the Big Ten maybe as others are. I know there are a lot of people who aren't high on the Big Ten, but I think in this matchup, I definitely want to play Chattanooga with the points. I don't know if they can win, and I have enough confidence to lay a money line piece there, but it's definitely one that I'm leaning more on Chattanooga than Illinois as far as the spread. I'm trying to see if there's any others.
One other one that I'm kind of really falling for, and I think this is a tough matchup for the team. Wisconsin, another Big Ten team. I think they're on upset alert with Colgate. Colgate is, interesting enough, kind of the mini version of Wisconsin. I'll tell you right now, this Wisconsin student section can make fun of the toothpaste brand all they want, but this is a very good basketball team. Okay, they have a chip on their shoulder after the last couple of years. Matt Langle's a hell of a coach at Colgate. That group can shoot the rock. Ask Arkansas last year. They were on the ropes. Then the difference between Arkansas and Wisconsin is, as you know, athletically, Arkansas just battered them in the second half. I'm not sure if Wisconsin can do that, especially with the fact of Johnny Davis isn't exactly completely healthy right now. He's the X factor. If he has a huge game, they'll win. But you take him, and let's say he's 60%, 70%. Now you really equal the athleticism. They're not, without Johnny Davis, they're not athletic enough to blow Colgate out. Colgate's too good a team. They shoot the ball too well. They don't make mistakes. I think they have a real shot at hanging around in this game. This is the kind of matchup for your Colgate you want. You don't want to see Murray State or Arkansas or a team that's just going to athletically beat you up. I don't think Wisconsin could really out-athlete Colgate. They're kind of on a similar level, especially with a hobbled Davis.
And yeah, of course, Colgate shoots the three ball well. They were neck and neck with Arkansas last year, as you know, and that was a game that I had money on Arkansas, and I was not feeling good about that until the last.
It's funny you say
they went on a run. Yeah,
you had Arkansas, or you had Colgate. You said
I had Arkansas because Arkansas ended up covering that.
Yeah. I remember that game that day vividly because weirdly enough, I scheduled my first COVID vaccine that day,
so
and I just remember it. Yeah. I remember missing like the first 10, 15 minutes of the game because I was in line, and I remember watching. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? And that Arkansas won on like a 21-2 run towards the end of the first half and took control. And I'm like, all right, perfect. This is beautiful. And then they started just really getting going.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. So another one that I want to touch on. This is turning into probably one of the weirdest like public splits that I've seen, like that I can remember, considering it's a 4-13, and that's Providence and South Dakota State. The public has been hammering South Dakota State. I think the narrative of Providence, on top of them getting blown out to Creighton, but the whole luck factor, how they're the number one luckiest team, and then they're losing the last game. They're headed into this game. People have been waiting to just bet against Providence, and now it's a sexy South Dakota State team who plays fast and hits threes. What are your thoughts with this game? There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I have games where occasionally I'll just say to myself, you know what? I think South Dakota State beats Providence. I think Providence is a team that has been very lucky. Do I think they're a great basketball team? No, I don't. I think they're really good at home. Remember, this game isn't at home. We have to start talking about, and I've said this all season, this is a machine that South Dakota State puts out every year. This is one of the best offenses in the country year after year. Remember, Ben, they arguably had, and whether you agree with what I'm saying or not, the truth is in the facts. Mike Daum was a historical player. He was one of the best players over the last 10 years statistically. He did things that one other player has done in college basketball over the last 20 years. You know who that player was? Kevin Durant. Okay. Mike Dom was that good a player. Okay. So this team has put out quality over the years. If you ask me right now, Jeff, you can pick one team in America for a one-off game offensively. Who are you picking? I'm picking South Dakota State. Okay. Unless they shoot terribly, which is very rare, they're going to be in a game every single time. They haven't lost in a long ass time. Now, the concern I have for this one is defensively. One of the issues they've had over the years is defensive. But I'll tell you right now, this is not a team full of just a couple of white kids that can shoot the basketball. Doug Wilson is a hell of a player, and that is a problem for Nate Watson down low. He better get going and get ready because he's going to have to move out on the perimeter. He's going to have to do a lot of things that I don't think he's real comfortable doing. And let me make one point. Villanova destroyed Providence in both games offensively this year. That's the one competent offense to South Dakota State. I'll also bring up the fact Providence also struggled. Anytime it seemed like they stepped up, they didn't face, really interesting enough, a lot of great offenses this year. Go look at their out of conference. They didn't play a lot of great offenses. You look at a lot of New Hampshire's, Virginia, St. Peter's, Texas Tech, Rhode Island. You faced a couple, UConn. I mean, Wisconsin's a pretty good offense. But all in all, they haven't faced this down, this up and down. They can hit jump shots. South Dakota State is elite offensively. Elite. I'm picking them over any offense in the country. I grabbed 3. I grabbed this number as soon as it came out. I literally refreshed and waited yesterday for it to come out. I got 3. It's down to 2. We haven't seen a lot of move off 2, though. So, I will say this, and this is one thing about this whole public dog thing, okay? And this is the important thing. You and me, most of the people watching your show right now are astute college basketball people. They understand who's good and who's not. We know that Colgate's solid. We know that South Dakota State's solid. The truth of the matter is, though, most of the individuals over the next 3 days that go to a sports book have no fucking idea what these teams are and who they are. All they're going to see is the numbers next to these teams. And they're going to say, whoa, Providence, what are they, 28-4, whatever the hell they are? I got to bet them. So that's really going to even this stuff out. You know the funny thing about Providence and South Dakota State, Ben? Most of the people saying South Dakota State's going to win, you know who's saying that? A lot of smart people that know about college basketball. Yeah. I guarantee you go to the book on Thursday, there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to bet Providence because of the luck and, the angle. And I think it'll be more even than we think. South Dakota State.
And it's early, like all things considered, like
and
Wednesday,
what's early?
Thursday.
Who's betting early, Ben?
Of course, the smart bettors. Now, I want to talk about a 12-5 matchup, but it can be anyone in particular because personally this year I have struggled to find like a 12 that I think is going to upset a 5 from years prior. Do you have one that you're eyeing that you think could win outright?
I'll tell you right now, I couldn't agree more with you. UConn, New Mexico State, it's not happening. I think UConn is way too good on the glass. They can really neutralize.
I tried to make a case for New Mexico State because that is a team that I like, but I don't like this matchup. So
yeah, it's not a good one.
It's in Buffalo too. Like it's going to be a pro UConn crowd, and then Houston UAB is interesting, but I really do respect Houston's defense. Like they can stifle a team.
Well, it's funny because I've been on I've been one of the people that have said all year I think Houston is completely fraudulent. If you can find something that impresses you on this resume, I'd like to hear it because what is there? Look at their resume. Seriously.
Basically
it's a bunch of bad teams in a bad conference. They stepped up and played Memphis and didn't get the job done most of the time. And they beat pretty much nobody in the non-conference. They don't and are not as strong as they've been in years past. I don't know if UAB can beat Houston. That was another game I played. I did play UAB. They've struggled this year against good guard play. Most notably, Hofstra did a lot of good things against them early in the season. I think if you could neutralize them on the glass, you have a shot. And I think Trey Jameson, the 7-footer from Clemson, can do that. He's one of the best rebounders in the country. Andy Kennedy's got a good team. They have a lot of confidence. Jelly Walker's the best player in the court in that game. It's that simple. I think they could give a scare. Richmond ain't beating Iowa. It's not happening. And nobody's beating St. Mary's, either Indiana or Wyoming. Wyoming could be interesting because I think Ike is kind of an interesting big. And I think Maldonado might be the best player on the court in that game. But Wyoming's not playing well. I don't know if I trust them out of Laramie. I'll tell you one thing about Iowa, Ben. I have them going to the national title game. I think
I
they
have
have
them. I have them in the Final Four. I think I have Iowa, Arizona, and I think I put Arizona.
I think they're magical this year. I
Yeah,
really
and
do.
I also like that they can. A lot of the noise has been their 3-point shooting, but like they can score in the paint too. Like it's not just they're just, if they, because a lot of people will say like, well, what happens if they get cold from three? Well, it's not like a South Dakota State from that standpoint. Like I do feel like they are a little more balanced than people think. I like that take. I mean, I can see them making a run, and if they face Kansas, like I could see the spread being just like 2, like for Kansas, like that's it, right? It's not going to be anything higher.
The Iowa, this is why I didn't like Iowa last year. I like Iowa a lot this year. And McCaffrey said it after the game on Sunday. He talked about how everybody has a role on this team and they're deep. They actually play defense this year. They're long. Bohannon seems like that kid. You remember a couple years ago, Wisconsin had that kid, Bronson Koenig. You remember that kid?
Yeah.
Bohannon reminds me of him. He's been there for like 8 years. He hits a lot of big shots. They have Murray, who is terrific.
Good defense too.
They have everyone has a role in this team. I really like them a lot. And I'll tell you something about Kansas. I've said all year that defensively they're not good. Okay, they struggle. I think San Diego State gives them a real game in the second game here.
Jeff, I'm out here in Colorado. I watch a lot of Mountain West. I'm telling you, this San Diego State team is a nightmare matchup, and I think they're going to beat Creighton. And if Matt Bradley can, because honestly, Matt Bradley has been off the last few games, but then he'll have stretches where he's on. If he can hit shots, as you know, Jeff, that defense of San Diego State, I got to say, is the best in college basketball. It's stifling. They will get in your face. They do a good job of not fouling too. And they have Mensah in the paint, so you can't really get past people because he's waiting for you. I could see San Diego State beating Kansas in that.
We have to start talking about, and we if you're a basketball guy, you know how good they are. We have to start putting them in the echelon category defensively of Virginia, Texas Tech. San Diego State every year is a top 5 defense. Okay. Yeah. And this year's team, I remember many years ago, 2011, 2010, Kawhi Leonard, Billy White, Malcolm Thomas, DJ Gay. That team defensively was elite. This team this year, Seiko, Pulliam, Mensah, Bradley. Yeah. I mean, this team is very good defensively. And Mensah is going to give some problems, I think, to Kansas. I really do. And you're right with Bradley. If he can get hot, it's going to be a tough.
And he's capable of doing so, right? Like he's more than capable. And I think in the Mountain West tournament, like it was just defense. Like a lot of teams were just stepping it up on the defensive side of the ball. I think if San Diego State can get into a game, and I know Creighton plays slow and they play good defense. They're not a Creighton like we know them to be of years prior.
But San Diego State's seen teams like that all year. Boise State was their kryptonite all year.
Exactly. Yeah.
They just don't want to see Boise, and they're not going to see Boise unless they get to the finals.
Yeah, but my point though is like if San Diego State plays Kansas, like who knows what the spread would be? Maybe like 5+5. It's hard to say right now, but I could see San Diego State definitely beating Kansas in that second round. The other game I want to touch on before we hop off is Boise Memphis, because I think this is a really unique matchup for a few reasons. One, Boise State won the Mountain West, and that really didn't affect their seeding at all, because if they're at 8, that's telling me the committee didn't really give a fuck that they won the Mountain West, because they would be at least a 7.
They got screwed in the got screwed in the
and then you have Memphis. I know they're healthy now, and maybe they have the most upside for value for a future, but I like Boise State here. I really do. Their free throw shooting sucks. That's one thing that does scare me, but I can't trust a Penny Hardaway team. In Portland, Oregon too, there's going to be a lot of Boise fans out there. It just seems like a spot where Boise wins, but I'm curious if you agree.
Here's what I'll say about this one. You know who is up at night over the next couple of nights, and he's begging Boise to win? Mark Few. Mark Few
Yeah.
has no business.
Oh,
He does not want
oh
to see
yeah.
Memphis in the second round.
I
Because I'll
agree.
tell you this, Memphis is athletically top 5 in the country. They have kids all over this roster that are
Hmm.
bouncy, athletic, and you do not want to see, and they're playing well too. And that's not a team you want to see.
Yeah.
I will agree. I think Boise is a real clash and style matchup. I don't bet these kind of games. These are very tough on the bracket because I do think they're toss ups. Both these teams can't shoot free throws. The difference in this game, I just think, is going to be athleticism. And I think Memphis is just, with DeAndre Williams, I think they're really good. And I think they've made it clear. Plus, I got to tell you, for all the people that want to talk about Penny Hardaway, who I agree, I think is a bottom 5 coach in America. Like, he's that bad. He's horrible. You know
Hmm.
who's really pulling the strings there, though, Ben? Larry Brown. It's that simple. Larry's
Yeah.
making the decisions. I think he's kind of the front boss, if you will, as we speak about the mafia. The mafia used to have this situation, Ben, where they would put a boss in front of the actual boss, and
Yeah.
it would kind of, it would hide who the real boss was. I think that's what Larry's doing. Larry's the real coach, I feel like, here. Penny's kind of the guy that's kind of out there in the public.
Hmm.
I think athletically they just get the job done here. I will say though, Marcus Shaver's tough, man. I mean, they got some
Yeah.
kids that can really shoot the rock. They played well. I just think athleticism wise, I think it's a close game. I'll lean Memphis, but you're right. I mean, it's hard to trust them with this game being so far. You obviously mentioned it's going to be in Portland, so it's going to be a pretty nice pro Boise crowd. A lot of those Mountain West teams travel well.
They do.
What
Yeah,
else
they
is there
really
to do in
do.
Idaho? I guess so. I think it's one of the tougher games of the first round. It's not a game
Mhm.
I'll be betting on, but Mark Few is. I think he's going to watch this game intently and probably hope Boise wins. He knows it's a way better matchup for him.
Yeah, I think Memphis Gonzaga would be a very, very interesting game.
Let me ask you:
Absolutely.
Do you look at, because like I've always looked at teams that, like, I'm not really worried about the upper echelon teams because I know I can get value from like looking deeper.
Mhm.
Like Memphis, okay, they're 250 to 1 to win the NCAA tournament. Talent wise and roster wise, they have a real good roster. Why can't they make a run? I mean, they're
I
playing their best basketball right now.
I
Before the
think from
season,
I was just gonna say, I think for me, before the bracket was released, I would have liked that a lot more. But now, as an 8-9, you're gonna get a Gonzaga in the second round. I think that's tough. I know it
but
potentially
if you
is
get
a
by
good
them,
matchup.
but if
Yeah,
you get
you're
by them, I mean, because again, remember, to win the
that's
national title, you're going to have to beat a 1 or 2 seed at some point anyway.
yeah, you're totally right. And then if they, let's say they beat Gonzaga, I mean, they're gonna be like 20 to 1 at that point, right? Like
Right. And I'm saying, like,
yeah.
on the one off, they could beat Gonzaga. I don't think they're actually going to win the tournament, but I could cut that to, let's say, 30, 40, 50 to 1 and make a massive price back in the prop swap market. So, like,
Yeah.
250 to 1 is a huge price.
I think the team for me that I like, and it's not anywhere close to those odds, but Alabama, I know they've been so inconsistent, and it's kind of the same case. Just like when they're at their best, like they could beat anyone they have. They beat Gonzaga, and I also think they could beat Texas Tech if Texas Tech gets out. They should beat Montana State.
Here's the
But
problem with Alabama, Ben. They're broken, okay? And they're terribly coached. They remind me of me on a diet, Ben, okay? So when I first started dieting, if you eat poorly, you're defeating the purpose of your diet. Now, I know that's not the right way to do things, so I'm going to switch it up and do what actually works. Alabama can't shoot threes, yet they shoot more threes than pretty much anyone in America. It's a terrible game plan. Nate Oates has not changed his stripes. They're actually a pretty decent team in transition if only they would run and get into the half court. They're just obsessed with shooting threes. It's a system that just will not work. As you know, you have to be balanced offensively. They're not balanced enough to make a run in this tournament. They've got a good first round matchup. Notre Dame or
yeah,
who else?
Rutgers.
They're not going to beat Alabama, but I think that's all Alabama gets is one.
Yeah, one more game, and then we maybe give one of your best bets, maybe a total or a side. But what about Arkansas, Vermont? I know this is kind of an interesting one because the spread's only 5. Vermont's been a solid team all year, but they play in a piss poor conference. What are your thoughts on that one? I think the spread's -5.
Yeah, I've led the party with Arkansas all year. I think outside of Fayetteville, I'm the biggest fan on earth of this team. I have them in a couple different positions to make a run. I think this is a tough matchup for them. I mean, Colgate last year, it was someone they could exploit. I don't know if they can exploit Vermont that way. Vermont is
Mhm.
really good. John Becker's terrific. They've got a couple kids that were at other places. Justin Mazzullo was at George Washington, he played in the A-10, played some good competition. The kid Ryan Davis is terrific. They've got some real
And
shooters,
they
athletic.
don't turn the ball over either. Like, they're
No,
not gonna do stupid passes that are gonna lead to transition baskets on the other end. Like,
I think
they're just very
Arkansas
sound.
escapes, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, this number's come down a little bit. People are coming in taking the 5.5s. It's down to 5. I think it'll be close. I think Arkansas will have enough. I think Jalen Williams is terrific. But here's the blueprint on how you beat Arkansas. And LSU did some decent things. They just didn't shoot the ball well the other day. If
Mhm.
you can stop Note, you're going to have success against them. They don't have a ton of offensive weapons really outside of that. You need Umide to go off or someone like the Tony to go off. If you can neutralize Note, Becker knows it. He's not stupid. This
Yeah.
could be an interesting matchup. I think Arkansas wins, but it ain't going to be easy.
Yeah, I think it could be pretty close. So give us one of your better bets for the first round
So hear
before
me
we
out on
hop
this
off.
one. I'm back at a team that I've had a weird stubbornness with. It's been a long year for Chris Beard in Texas. We expected a lot more out of this team, but you know what, Ben? You know what we have an opportunity to do now? Chris Beard can walk into that locker room and say, we've had some tough times this year, but now we have a new shot. This is our new season now. What do we know last year? They embarrassingly lost to Abilene Christian. He was on that team, Andrew Jones, Courtney Ramey, a couple of these other kids as well.
Good team. Good team.
Yeah. It's a new day, though, in Texas. And this is a terrific matchup for them. If you know anything about Mike Young at Virginia Tech, shoot a ton of threes. He did it at Wofford. They do it at Va Tech. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. A lot of variance, a lot of
Yeah.
volatility in backing them. Texas is a terrific three-point defense. They're very good at limiting the three-point opportunity. They're not going to give you a lot of open looks. They're long. I think Marcus Carr finally shows up for them. I think Texas is got a good matchup here. I think you get that proverbial, we lost last year off our backs. Let's at least get a winner about. Let's reassess what we have here. I think Va Tech is a team just really volatile. I think they have blowout ability if you can kind of defend against the three. I think Texas wins quite comfortably here. I have them advancing. I think it's one of the better.
I like that a lot. I was literally talking about that earlier today. And I personally think the public's going to be all over the Hokies. I mean, we saw what they did in the ACC tournament, and Texas lost to TCU. It's basically you're buying low on a Texas team, or you could buy high on Virginia Tech, but I'm selling them. I totally agree with you, and I think the total too. I like the under in this spot also, and I like Texas too as well. I think people are going to think of Virginia Tech as shooting the lights out, but Texas is going to slow down the pace. They're going to slow down the pace. And if Virginia Tech starts missing threes, this is for sure going under, in my opinion.
Now, I know that obviously I'm well aware that these games are neutral site games. Everybody's on the road, but I am fascinated to get involved in fading teams that just weren't good on the road this year. Virginia
Yeah.
Tech was dreadful at times on the road this year. I mean, they lost to BC on the road, lost to Dayton, lost a couple neutrals against Xavier and Memphis. This team went to Clemson and lost late in the season. This team had issues on the road. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. Some nights, Ben, they could beat anyone in America if they're making threes, but if they're not making threes, if they shoot 6 for 27 Thursday or Friday, they get blown out.
They'll lose. They'll lose by 15 plus.
Yeah. They can. That's why some of their scores look wild. Like some nights they'll win, 93-60. And then the next night they'll lose 62-57. Like it's the weirdest team.
Yeah. No, I think we're on the same page there. I definitely don't want to bet on a Virginia Tech team by any means right now.
No.
So what's your plan for March Madness? You're going to be out. You're in Atlantic City the next 2 days, but then you're going back home.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'll be in Philly. I'll be in Philly that tomorrow night, and then early Wednesday I go to Atlantic City. I got some stuff I'm doing at Bally's Hotel with ESPN Radio. I'll do that. Then I'll come home. Thursday, Friday, I'll be here, and just kind of rock out the weekend and do what I do. But Yeah, it's going to be a fun couple of days here. It goes so quick, though. Before
It
you know it,
does.
it's
Yeah.
over. And the thing about the tournament that I like now is, when I was a kid, you know, I don't know, spring. It's kind of a time where you miss it because basketball's coming and it's going to end eventually. But spring is coming, summer's coming, so there's a lot to look forward to. Baseball's coming back. There's a lot
Yeah.
to look
Baseball's
forward to,
back.
and that's a good thing. It seems like we're finally past all this nonsense. Now I know gas prices are out of control, but we've got basketball, we've got baseball, we've got some sports coming up, and this is a great time. We're not at these goofy bubble atmospheres and
Yeah.
things like
That
that. So
that was weird. Just like, what do we have? Casinos? Can we Yeah, there's so much shit going on, and I'm glad we're kind of past that hump because that was tough. And
there
yeah,
was
I
a
think
time
we're
though
all
this season where there were a lot of cancellations at one
yeah,
point.
like back November, December,
January.
I was just like,
Yeah.
shit, here we go again. But
And I remember hearing at one point, are we going to have to do that bubble thing again? And I'm thinking,
it's
oh,
like,
no.
please no.
And remember that disaster last year where we had games on Monday? It was a fucking terrible idea.
Yeah,
I'm so happy we're back to normal. Don't screw with national treasures like this. Don't screw with
no. If we start losing these, everything is out the window at that point. If we can't figure
just
out March
leave
Madness,
certain things the way they are.
I want to give you one to look into. I actually bet this money line, small amount, right? Anytime you're 10-1, I personally I'm not betting a unit on 10-1. I'm going under a unit, but I like Montana State. I think this team has some guard play that can surprise people. I know they're going up against a Texas Tech team, and there's a reason why they're 16-point underdogs. And I actually think the number went from 16.5 down to 15 at some spots. And I also like the spread at plus 16, even down to 15. But this game is a decent matchup for Montana State, just from the standpoint that they don't turn the ball over quite a bit. I know they play in the Big Sky, so there isn't a lot of strong competition, but Raekwon Battle is a transfer from Washington. He's been huge. I mean, he had a buzzer beater 3 a few days ago. He carried them in the Big Sky because Jabril Bello, their big, was a little banged up. He should be ready to go for this one too. But they have guys who can make shots, and even their bench, all things considered, is somewhat deep for a mid-major. Like, they were playing their 6, 7, 8, 9 guys against Northern Colorado. Obviously, they're not a good defensive team, but this Montana State team is a team that most people have not watched play all year, and that makes me feel okay about this. And it's a low total too, so a little less variance, less possessions. I think Montana State could surprise some people for sure.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by their roster, Montana State. Danny Sprinkle has really done a bang-up job recruiting. I mean, they have a couple of kids from London, England. They had a kid from Ottawa. They've done a really good job. Transfers going on, and then Raekwon Battle. Here's what they have to hope for. Here's what you have to hope for. They're not going to score in the half court against Texas Tech. Texas Tech's the best defense in the country. What Texas Tech, though, there's one thing they don't do, and they're bad, quite frankly. You need to hope for a whistle-happy ref. They need to get to the line a lot. If they can stay at the line a lot, they shoot 30 free throws in this game, they're going to hang around. When you back a dog of this caliber, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Do they turn the ball over? Can they make threes? And do they make free throws? That's all equalizers to stay in games. Free throw line. You could shoot poorly, but if you have 30 free throws, you got a shot to stay in the game. Montana State checks all the boxes. If this turns, though, into a game where it's just mano-y-mano, they're not going to run through Bello. Nothing's going to work, and they're going to score 60, and this is 79-59.
No, you make a great point because one guy in particular, Ike over at Wyoming, I know we mentioned them earlier, but if he doesn't get the foul calls, he struggles a little bit. And I think a team like Montana State and Bello, very similar. Like Bello, if he isn't getting calls in this game and the refs are just we're not calling those hand checks, ticky-tack fouls, Montana State is definitely in trouble because Texas Tech is just going to stifle them.
And you look at their path to offense, Montana State. Okay, 16th in America in point distribution from the free throw line. Okay, so let's say in the first half they have 5 free throws. That is not going to be a good sign for them. Okay,
Yeah.
they're going to have to make shots. I don't trust that to happen. If they have to get to the free throw line 25 times, I think they have a shot in this game. And if they don't, I think it's going to be lights out because, and one thing you can also mention is, I mean, Texas Tech is not, Gonzaga offensively, right? So they're not going to,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to blow anyone out. I think this number is kind of right where I put it. I'd lean a little bit of Montana State because the NCAA has made it clear they want to call as many fouls as possible. They want scores as high as they can go. So, this could be one of those back doors where it's like a 16-point game with a minute to go, and you get a couple free throws, and you get a number cover. But it's not going to be easy. You need a good.
I think 15 is about where maybe it should be. I could see. I could see this maybe dropping if some more sharps jump on Montana State, because I do know some others that thought 16, even 16 and a half was like pretty pretty admirable. Like
when we're talking about big numbers,
16 and a half.
Let me just throw one other one out there to you. I've seen this team. I really enjoy them. I think they're really well coached. And if this big team's not careful, they're going to look real dumb. St. Peter's, I think, could give Kentucky a game. Now, they have all the makings to win by 25 if they're focused. But St. Peter's is a really, really good defensive team. Jersey tough, blue-collar team. Shaheen Holloway's done a great job with recruiting there. They have a couple of kids that are really good. They have 2 brothers, the Drame kids. They're really interesting. They can defend their ass off. They're kids from Africa. They did a great job in some of the FIBA games. They've got some long, athletic kids that can really defend. That might be a decent first half play, right? You're probably going to get 10 in the first half or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they hang around and be down to 8, and then they get blown out and lose by 20. But, some of these big numbers,
I love first half plays like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love first half plays like that for sure.
Exactly.
So that's one. And they also, Ndefo.
Yeah. Casey Ndefo. Sure.
Fun player.
Yep.
Yeah. Enough. So awesome. Well, hey man, I appreciate it. It was good to kind of catch up. Enjoy the next few days doing your engagements. Where can people find those going on? ESPN Radio, you said?
Yeah, it's a local ESPN Radio. It's Atlantic City, South Jersey. It's pretty big listening audience, so I'll be doing that. I'll try to tweet some of that stuff out. Really just keep track of Twitter. I do some stuff with BetUS and a couple other things. So, I will say one thing about this. I'm looking forward to the season ending, kind of getting away from gambling for a little bit, do a little bit of different things. But good to have you. Good to be on with you, not have it. Good to be on with you. Appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to people that enjoy gambling. So thanks for having me, man.
I'm excited.
You got it.
I'm listening to it back too, because I'm sure there's some stuff that I missed a little bit. And the St. Peter's angle, I like that a lot too. So I really appreciate it. We'll talk soon, and best of luck with all the betting.
Thanks, Ben.